In the quiet heart of an old city, tucked away from the thrum of busy streets and the constant hum of modern life, there stood a little antique shop. Its wooden sign had faded over the years, the letters peeling and curling like autumn leaves, yet the place still drew the curious and the nostalgic, the seekers of stories woven into forgotten things. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of polished wood and lavender, a fragrance that seemed to drift from the past itself. Sunlight filtered through stained glass windows, scattering soft rainbows across rows of weathered shelves, each crowded with treasures. Porcelain figurines, stacks of dog-eared books, clocks with hands forever paused, and jewelry boxes whispering secrets of generations gone by. But in a corner, half hidden behind a stack of empty picture frames, stood an old mirror. Its gilded frame was intricately carved, a tapestry of vines and flowers that curled around the edges, their details softened by time. The silvered glass had lost its pristine clarity. It held a gentle haze, a patina that softened every reflection into something dreamlike. For years, people passed it by, dismissing it as another relic. Its beauty dulled, its value obscured. Yet, on a morning thick with the promise of change, a young woman named Lon stepped into the shop. She was not searching for anything in particular. She wandered, as she often did, to escape the relentless pace of her days, a life measured by deadlines, to-do lists, and the ever-present sense that she was running out of time to become who she was supposed to be. Lon had grown up believing that life was a ladder, each rung a milestone to reach: top of her class, a good university, a promising career. She checked off every box, celebrated each achievement, but with each step, a quiet emptiness grew inside her. She felt as if she was chasing a horizon that kept slipping further away, no matter how fast she ran. On this morning, something weighed more heavily than usual: the echoes of a difficult conversation with her parents, their voices tinged with disappointment and concern replayed in her mind. She heard their questions. Why wasn't she happy? Wasn't she proud of how far she'd come? Didn't she see the opportunity she had? Opportunity others could only dream of? She could not answer them. She could not answer herself. Wandering through the shop, her fingers brushed over the spines of books, the ridges of ornate teacups, the cool metal of old coins. Each item seemed to hold a fragment of someone else's life, a sliver of memory or meaning. She felt drawn toward that hidden corner, as if something beyond her own will was guiding her steps. There she found the old mirror. At first, she almost missed it, its reflective surface clouded, the gold of its frame dulled. But as she looked closer, she saw her own image, softened and blurred, blending into the gentle haze of the glass. It was as if the mirror was inviting her to see not just her face, but something deeper. She stood before it, searching for the familiar lines and features. But what she saw was different. The sharp tension in her brow, the worry etched around her eyes, seemed to dissolve. She saw herself not as the sum of her achievements or the weight of her regrets, but as a person. A living, breathing soul who had weathered storms and chased dreams, who had loved and lost, and who was still, in so many ways, unfinished. Lon closed her eyes and let herself remember. She thought of her childhood, of days spent running through rice fields, her laughter ringing out as she chased dragonflies beneath the open sky. She remembered her grandmother's gentle hands braiding her hair, her stories of resilience and hope, her quiet wisdom that life was not a race to be won, but a journey to be cherished. She remembered the joy of learning, not for grades or praise, but for the wonder of discovery. The friendships that had shaped her, the moments of kindness from strangers, the small victories, and the lessons learned from failure. Each memory rose like a wave, washing away the noise of expectations and self-doubt. She opened her eyes and looked again. The mirror reflected not just her face, but the tapestry of her life, its beauty, its pain, its hope. She realized that she had been measuring herself against a standard that was never truly hers. She had been chasing approval, ticking boxes, trying to fit herself into a mold that had never quite fit. In that moment, something shifted. She understood, perhaps for the first time, that her worth was not defined by the opinions of others, nor by the relentless pursuit of perfection. She saw herself as a work in progress, a story still being written. She saw the courage it took to keep moving forward, even when the path was uncertain. She saw the quiet strength in her softness, the resilience in her vulnerability. Lan reached out and touched the mirror's frame, feeling the cool metal beneath her fingertips. She smiled, a small, genuine smile that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. As she stood there, the shopkeeper, a gentle, silver-haired woman, approached. She had watched Lan from a distance, recognizing the look in her eyes. It was a look she had seen many times before. The longing for something more, the ache of a soul searching for meaning. The shopkeeper spoke softly, her voice warm and steady. "That mirror has been here a long time," she said. "People often overlook it, but it has a way of showing us what we need to see." Lan nodded. She felt as though the mirror had held up not just her reflection, but her very spirit. She realized that she had been waiting for permission to be herself, when all along, that permission could only come from within. She left the shop that day with the mirror, carefully wrapped, its weight both literal and symbolic. She carried it home, placing it in her room where morning light would touch it first each day. It became a quiet companion, a gentle reminder that her value was not in how the world saw her, but in how she chose to see herself. In the weeks that followed, Lan began to change, not in dramatic, sweeping ways, but in subtle shifts of perspective. She started to let go of the need for constant validation. She learned to celebrate her progress, no matter how small. She reached out to old friends, reconnected with her passions, and allowed herself moments of rest without guilt. She found joy in simple things: a walk in the park, the taste of her favorite tea, the sound of rain against her window. She began to write again, not for an audience, but for the pleasure of expression. She volunteered at a community center, sharing her time and skills with those who needed them most. In giving to others, she discovered a sense of purpose that had eluded her in the pursuit of personal achievement. Her relationships grew deeper, more honest. She learned to listen to her own needs, to the stories of those around her. She forgave herself for past mistakes, recognizing that each misstep was part of her growth. She found beauty in imperfection, in the unfinished edges of her life. The mirror, with its time-worn frame and hazy glass, became a symbol of transformation. Each morning, as she caught her reflection, she was reminded to look beyond the surface, to see the person she was becoming. She realized that life was not about reaching a final destination, but about embracing the journey, with all its twists and turns. Lan's parents noticed the change in her, not just in the way she spoke or carried herself, but in the lightness that seemed to return to her eyes. They saw her laughter return, her curiosity rekindled. They understood, perhaps for the first time, that happiness could not be forced or measured. It had to be found and cherished in its own time. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Lan shared the story of the old mirror. She spoke of what she had seen and what she had learned, that life's true worth was not in accolades or awards, but in authenticity, connection, and self-acceptance. Her words resonated, touching something deep within each listener. Her story spread beyond her family, to friends, colleagues, and strangers who heard it through small acts of kindness, through conversations over coffee, through letters and posts shared online. The message was simple but powerful. We are all works in progress, and that is enough. The old mirror, once overlooked and forgotten, had become a catalyst for change, not just for Lan, but for everyone who heard her story. It reminded people that reflection is not just about seeing what is, but imagining what could be. It encouraged them to look beyond the standards imposed by society, to honor their own journeys, and to embrace the beauty of becoming. As seasons changed, the city continued to bustle with life. The antique shop remained, its shelves shifting with the tides of time. But the story of the old mirror endured. A quiet testament to the power of perspective, the resilience of the human spirit, and the profound truth that sometimes the greatest changes begin not with grand gestures, but with the simple act of seeing ourselves with new eyes. In the end, Lan's journey was not about finding a perfect life, but about finding peace within herself. She learned that every scar, every triumph, every moment of doubt was a thread in the fabric of her existence. She learned that self-love was not selfish, but essential, a foundation on which to build a life of meaning and joy. And so the old mirror stood in her room, reflecting not just her face, but the endless possibility of each new day. It remained a gentle companion, a witness to her growth, a reminder that the way we see ourselves can change everything. In a world that often tells us to strive, to compete, to be more, the story of the old mirror invites us to pause, to breathe, and to honor the journey. It teaches us that true transformation begins within, that by changing the way we see ourselves, we can change the way we move through the world. And perhaps, in doing so, we can inspire others to do the same. For in every life, there is a moment, a choice, to turn away from the relentless pursuit of perfection and instead to embrace the beauty of simply being human.